All right. So I'd like to go ahead and welcome everybody. A good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. And thanks for joining us at our CTI monthly meeting for February of 2022. I have absolutely no idea where the time is going anymore. Between pandemic time, just messing with my head and everything else. Here we are, moving around. We've got a lot of stuff to happen today. From an agenda perspective, we've got updates from all the different members of the TC leadership team here today. We do have a community development corner session with Aviv of IBM, talking about the project Map My Shifter. And then we'll have a Q&A session to go ahead and wrap things up. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into some updates. And one of the first things I want to go ahead and start off with is I know we've had this slide up a handful of times in the past. We're actually getting to a point where we really need to go ahead and identify some additional maintainers for our open repositories. MITRE support for this officially ends on May 6th of this year. And we can use help with all of these or a portion thereof. One of the reasons why this is important, besides the fact that we want to make sure that the repos stay up to date, is especially for certain repos, like for example the CTI documentation repo, the Python STIX 2, the common objects, and some of the others. These are the ways that our community interacts with us, through questions, issues, pull requests, and the like. This is not a huge time suck. And I know that, the team from MITRE is available to be able to go ahead and assist in the transition. Chris Lenk, who I believe is on the call here, as well as Danny Haynes from MITRE are here. And if one of you guys want to go ahead and just kind of come off mute for a second and talk a little bit about what roles and responsibilities are for the repos.
Yeah, sure. This is Chris Link. Like Rob said, after May 6th, MITRE will no longer be reviewing issues or pull requests on these repositories or publishing new versions to PyPy. So, like he said, it's pretty important that some new maintainers step up. We're happy to help with the transition, get you on board, answer any questions you have about it. The responsibilities that are involved are basically just responding to GitHub issues that come in. They might be things about the STIX spec itself, in which case we usually point them to the TC GitHub repository. But they can also be bugs about the code as well. The responsibilities also include like fixing any bugs that are found, updating the code if or when there's a new version of the STIX or TAXII specifications, and then publishing new releases on the PyPy, the Python package repository. The level of effort, at least right now, we only get about maybe 1 or 2 issues a month, if that, across like all of the repositories. So it's a pretty low level of effort. The main thing is going to be just like updating the code if a bug is found, or again, if a new version of the spec comes out. I did want to thank IBM, who's been co-maintaining the pattern matcher with us. So we're thankful for them stepping up to that. But again, we're happy to help onboard anyone who wants to become a maintainer or answer any questions, whether you can email me at the email on the slide, or if we have time, I can answer questions right now. I'll hand it back to Rob.
All right, thanks, Chris. Like I said, as and these as I said, I mean, this is the way the our user base, the general public, this is the way they communicate with us. This is how they implement and use the work, and our work products. But also as we go in and we'll hear from Emily, later on, it says as the extensions, work goes forward, we start adding in additional extensions. You'll see here, for example, either in common objects or in an upcoming, repo for extensions. I mean, this will be the way that we publish this information, along with documentation on how to use it, examples and the like. So this becomes really important for us to be able to go ahead and maintain the usability of the specs going forward. Trey, anything else to add there?
Nope. Just, we've been asking this for a long time, and I'd volunteer for it myself if I had the time, but I just don't. I wonder, is it possible, given that these are OASIS open repositories, is it a hard requirement that someone has to be a TC member to be a maintainer? That is, if we had somebody who was actively using them and filing a bunch of requests and who seemed to be at a level of maturity developmentally, I mean, like code-wise, that they could handle it, but maybe they were just, not in the TC. I don't know. That's a question that we'll have to look into with Chet, I guess, but we are getting close to the wall. And raise your hand if you don't use any of these libraries. So ask around inside your teams. Maybe, you're working more on standards development and GitHub maintenance isn't really your thing, but surely with a representation of software vendors that we have here, we've got enough technical expertise behind you guys in your organizations that there's somebody who could step up. So please.
Yeah. So thank you. I won't belabor the point. We won't turn this into a begathon. Although I kind of feel like for those of you who are old enough and US based and don't want to get into a whole Jerry Lewis and show up Tallywag and say, we don't need to go there. Anyway, now that I've shown my age, let's go ahead and move over into STIX. So Emily, are you?
Hey, the STIX cried.
Yeah, sure, Rob. A relatively light update this time. We had a really heavy update last time. If you weren't around last month, you may want to go review that recording, because Rich gave us an update last time on extensions, and we had an update on the incident object. So light update this time, but what we really need is, in the theme of the meeting, please review the extensions policy document. Rich has mailed it out to the CTI mailing group, so you can mailing list, so you can find it there. If you don't want to capture it from this link here, or if you ping me on Slack or via email, I'm happy to give you that link as well. We need reviewers of this extensions policy document to move forward with this work. And the ongoing work that we're doing right now is around JSON signing. And so if you're interested in this, then please join us next week and make sure that your interests get represented. Other than that, I will turn it back to you, Rob.
All right. Thank you, Emily. There really is a lot of interesting work going on right now. And as we've seen, especially not only the meta work that Rich Piazza is doing around extensions and the volunteers there, taking that and then leading it into the work Jeff made in incident, Void and team on JSON signing. They're working on their proposals right now and reviewing things, doing some write-ups to be able to go ahead and present some larger use cases to the TC. So there's been a lot of work behind the scenes, and I absolutely welcome all of you to be able to go ahead and join these working groups. As your time and availability permits. More feedback, more viewpoints, the better. As we be able to go ahead and make do, because again, we want this to be broadly usable and not just the work of a select few. Marlon, are you ready for some interop?
Hello?
We have? Oh, there
Yeah,
you are, Marlon.
I hear you now.
Yeah, I said, is the TC ready for some interop?
Well, take it away, sir.
All right, first and foremost, want to congratulate and welcome our new co-chair, Carter K. Desi. Desai, sorry. So some background on him, as you guys already know, I did nominate him to be our co-chair. He's been with us for a while, and I'll talk about him leading in Interop already. And with that, it's just some stuff from his bio. He is working at MITRE. He's a senior cybersecurity engineer. His background is in computer science, and he's working on his master's in computer science. Within OASIS, as I already mentioned, he's been the lead editor for both TAXII Interop and STIX Interop, and we are looking forward to getting TAXII Interop out. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But in addition to that, he's also helped being a developer and maintainer for some of our open repos, which is what we just talked about previously. Just some to note, Python, STIX, and CTI 6 Visualizer. If you guys aren't familiar with any of those, definitely try them out. The CTI 6 Visualizer is really high level, but I think all of us are able to get into the Python ones as well. Outside of that, some other work efforts that he does outside of his time with OASIS. He works on implementing zero trust architecture, and then he's also involved in international cyber capacity building. So it's a broad scope, and with that, just wanted to offer Carter K the mic to see if he has anything he wants to say to the people as the new co-chair of Interop.
Yeah, not much to say. Just wanted to say thanks to Marlon for nominating me, and thanks to everyone on the Interop team for all the work that we've done so far, and looking forward to working with everyone.
All right, thanks.
Welcome aboard. It's great to have you.
Thanks.
All right, next slide, please. So with that, we have our Interop calls on Tuesday. We've been making a lot of progress, just always calling out for more participation in those calls. They are Tuesday at 2 p.m. We had a different opportunity this week with STIX not meeting. We're actually able to use up both of those hour blocks, getting into a lot of details, which is great because we need to continue moving forward on that. But once again, those calls are Tuesday at 2 p.m. Check the invites, and with this new process, it's a lot easier, we hope, for the TC members to get on board by just clicking on the link and going right into the meetings. Next slide, please. So with some of the things we've been working on in some of these calls, I wanted to bring some of that to the forefront of the TC. Heads up, we are planning on providing the TC formally an early draft of the, well, I would say a pre-final draft of the document towards the end of this month, the beginning of next month, so that the TC will formally have a chance to provide any feedback. The docs are available. We put them in the links in the meetings, and they're all a part of the GitHub page, but we'll go ahead and make sure, when I say GitHub, part of the Google Drive, sorry, that we have out there. We'll go ahead and provide that towards the end of this month, the beginning of next month, for a final review prior to opening up a ballot next month for the TAXII Interop. With that being said, one thing's in there that we've been working on are some optional Interop TAXII filtering capability. So this is built off of the existing filtering capability that exists within the spec, and it really extends what we have in 3.4.1, which is a list of supported fields. And here's just a snippet of some of the things that we'll be able to support. So here, beyond what's already supported, you'll be able to look for things such as confidence. So a TAXII client could query a TAXII server and say, hey, I want everything with a high confidence or a confidence of 90 and above. We provide that mechanism there. We also provide the mechanism to filter based off of vocab. So in there we are several vocabs within the spec. I mean, here, if you're saying I want to get all of the sectors, or looking at the identity object, I want to get all the identity objects associated with the financial sector or with the manufacturing sector, you'll be able to do that. So now you have different ways to pivot through the data. You'll also be able to filter based off of hashes. So if you have a hash and you want to just say, hey, what does this TAXII server know about this hash? You'll be able to do that. We also have some others that look at object relationships, so pivoting based off of where it's located in the object. And here we have object refs, and object refs is associated with several objects, but in here you can see that that can be related to reports or groupings, not necessarily sightings, but we have other ones that allow you to get sightings. So now you're able to pivot or filter things off of data based off of context that you may not know which is more specific. So that's one of the benefits. They also have some what I'll call calculated filtering. So then you can say, hey, give me all of the valid indicators. And this is just, a couple of examples, but looking at this one, you're able to say, hey, give me all the valid indicators. And in this situation right here, we're looking for all the indicators that are valid today before 11 o'clock. So if you want to just pull out things from a TAXII server and you don't want a bunch of stale data, we provide the mechanism for you to go ahead and pull out valid indicators based off of the presence or the value for the valid until timestamp within the spec. I do want to pause just for a moment to see if there's any questions on the filtering or interest. I will also suggest looking at the documentation as we're rolling it out, but just want to let everybody know that this is what we're working on. And I want to emphasize the fact that this will be optional and tiered within Interop. So it's not going to be a requirement for all TAXII servers and clients, but it is an optional thing that we're providing to help ensure interoperability for those that want to provide this type of capability to their users. Any comments? Seeing none, let's go to the next slide.
Sorry, I was on mute. I love this capability. There is something funny to me about introducing what is like core TAXII functionality. This is basically TAXII query tiptoeing toward, right? Which we've all been wanting for a very long time, like an incident object. But to have this come in via Interop, it almost feels like this should maybe be a TAXII extension, but I don't know. I haven't been hands-on with this in a couple of years. This is great work. And that was my only comment. That
oh yeah, so it wouldn't
as
be
an
an extension.
implementer, I don't expect to find like additional functionality described in the interoperability spec. I don't think.
Yeah, so the spec actually is open. It says you can create new fields for filtering. So it's really just standardizing what those could be for folks. That's it. So it's not really new capability, it's standardizing those lists. That's all we're doing.
Okay, okay. As long as it solves for the use cases, that's great because we need this.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? No problem. All right, next slide. So updates on the PlugFest. So we had our last meeting in January. We're going to meet again in March. The reason we're taking that time off is because we wanted to get two things done. One, we're looking to go ahead and get the TAXII Interop document out. So we wanted to use that. So that'll be the basis for those implementing against it. They'll be able to have that as a standard as we're using the STIX Interop document. With that also being said, we wanted to give folks that have already signed up within the organizations to go ahead and provide the status of where their development is at that point. So that's why we took the month of February off. With that being said, we do, at our previous one, we confirmed for those that are participating, for those that have consented to say, these are the products they're gonna have, these are the personas, we confirmed the list at the bottom under PlugFest, so that is the case. We've confirmed that we are going, or confirmed, we planned on having one in June, but since our meeting, RSA is also moved to June, so we're going to reassess that timeline for what we will do in June. It's not off the table, but we just need to have a conversation around that. And we do have sponsorship. Once again, based off of these date changes and stuff, we're just going to confirm that up. But what we have so far is that we're looking to have both virtual and in person, and the location for the in person is targeted to be the DC area of the United States of America. Back on the participants. What I will be doing is reaching out to all of those on the roster just to ensure that everyone is up to date on the current status that we are, and then trying to solicit any of their participation in the PlugFest moving forward. So I will do that for everyone that is in the roster that has not already consented to say these are the personas that they're trying to pursue. Next slide. And with that, it's not limited to those that are already in the roster. Here's some remaining STIX personas that are not covered from those that are already signed up. And if you're interested in participating, either having a use case for these existing personas or some of the personas that are already there, next slide. I'd like to provide this opportunity for you to sign up to join the PlugFest effort. Just feel free to drop your email in the chat. We don't necessarily have to stay on the slide too long, but just wanted to make sure that we're providing another opportunity for folks to go ahead and put their hat in the ring for the organizations to participate in the Plug Fest that is right now scheduled. Well, right now is expected to be both in person and or virtual. So if you can't travel for any reason, we're looking to have a 100% virtual participation availability through the Plug Fest as well. So all are welcome. Just wanted to make sure we provide that opportunity for others to join. And with that, feel free to put your emails in chat anytime. And all right, so recap of everything. We are moving forward with STIX Interop. We have finished the requirements, which is awesome sauce. We are working on the use cases, which are inside the document. Really, we're just going through a review of that. What we're currently working on is the tiered approach for those optional filters. They're not required, but we just want to make sure that we tier them correctly so that we're kind of like right sizing it. That's all, because there are several filters in there. It's a lot of capability. It's awesome sauce. Just standardizing the way the spec says you can do stuff. And then from that, we'll plan on releasing a document out to the TC by the end of this month, the beginning of next month, so that we will then be able to take any feedback from the TC and then roll that into a ballot within next month, so that we'll be able to have a ballot for TAXII moving forward. With that, we already talked about the Plug Fest. Plug Fest next meeting is going to be March 10th at 9 o'clock. That's the time that was selected by the group. And as mentioned always, that the STIX Preferred website is something that we need to get to. So once we have these documents done, then we'll be able to focus on that. The other thing is once we have the Plug Fest, post-Plug Fest, I envision that we may have some updates to the interoperability documents, and then we'll be able to roll those into that next version as well. If there's no questions for Interop, then that's it for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Marlon.
Any questions?
Fantastic update. Go ahead, Trey.
No, hearing none. Great job.
All right. So let me go ahead and do a little bit of an update on TAXII. So as Marlon has alluded to, we're going through the Interop documentation for TAXII, and as a team is going a lot of great progress there. And we all fully expect to not only get additional clarity from the Interop documentation process, but also from the Plug Fest as we kind of get more so-called real world examples of how all this stuff works. Having said that, there's a couple of things I want to go ahead and highlight to be able to go ahead and spark conversation. So first off, back to asking for support. We don't have anybody officially leading a TAXII subcommittee right now. So if you have interest in this, and maybe it's coming out of work that you're doing in Interop, not to go ahead and put it to too narrow of a group of people, or if it's just something that you see that, hey, we need to be able to go ahead and go. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and figure out how to go ahead and get you guys involved. And then from there, what additional features does TAXII need to have versus must have or nice to have? I mean, this is the conversation. So going back into the Wayback Machine, there were conversations around what does messaging look like within TAXII, and we had a lot of conversations around pub sub messaging buses and the like. Is it potentially time to go ahead and think around maybe using the message bus concept that's being used by OpenCTI as an example. Maybe we want to go ahead and use MQTT as an alternative messaging bus, which happens to be an OASIS standard. I mean, I've also seen some implementations discuss using things like RabbitMQ and some others. Do we need to have conversation and expanded language in the spec around authentication? So right now the spec really calls out as a minimum is using basic auth, but that really doesn't work in how modern APIs are actually used. And so the concept of API keys and those authentication. I mean, do we need to have more guidance around what that needs to go ahead and look like? By no means is this a exhaustive list. It's meant to go ahead and spark discussion. I'd love to go ahead and see additional chatter on the listserv, within the Slack TAXII channel, and let's go ahead and have these conversations. And I have a feeling that as we go through continued Interop in the Plug Fest, more issues will go ahead and arise just naturally. And now's a really good time for us to start thinking about kind of what the next iterations of this need to be. So if you have any thoughts on this, feel free to go ahead and share. So we can go ahead and and start that conversation. This is again looking to go ahead and see ideas and figure out kind of what's next. TAXII's been kind of, I don't want to say dormant. I mean, was in a good spot, and thanks to Brett and the team who all got us to where we are. But now as we're starting to go ahead and see a lot more real world implementations, I think that we're going to have some good food for thought.
Don't forget Mark Davidson.
And Mark Davidson, yes, don't want to forget Mark.
But if you think that TAXII could use some help, well, nature abhors a vacuum. Drop us the email or nominate yourself on the list.
Okay. So with
one
that, go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing I was just going to mention is that within Interop, and this has happened for both STIX and TAXII at this point, going through Interop, we've been able to identify some things for the different specifications for the different standards as far as improvements. I went ahead and just added the link for folks on the chat so that you'll be able to see like, hey, if there are things you would like to have incorporated with TAXII or things that you think need to be changed, I added the GitHub link where you're able to, specify any issues. So this is also something for whoever becomes the co-chair of TAXII. This allowed them to kind of triage, so they have like a clean place to look at and say, here are all the things that have been mentioned by the community. So I just wanted to throw that out there. One, if you have anything, go ahead and look into that. See if it's on the list, if something's already there, upvote it, whatever. Or if you're just interested in seeing like where all the things for TAXII, then we have that specified there as well. So this is some of the work that happens through Interop, but there's also things from the community there as well. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, excellent. And to go ahead and bring things full circle, one of the reasons why we need maintainers for the open repos is as we are going through, as we are documenting our use cases and adding in things, we need people to be able to go ahead and manage the issues and the pull requests for those documents. So it's a full circle thing. All of this works together in harmony. With so with that, we're going to go ahead and shift over to our community development corner, and Aviv from IBM has graciously suggested highlighting the Map My Shifter project that he and his team are working on. So Aviv, I go ahead and hand it over to you. You should have you should be able to go ahead and present screen now. So feel free to go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, and hi everyone. I'm excited to be here for the first time. So thank you. So yes, me together with Noah, which is also here on this call, and two other people worked on an open source project called Map My Shifter, which we would be happy to show you today, and really happy if it got some people to use it, and you will find it helpful, useful, and if we manage to get some traction around that. So the whole thing started from us working on STIX Shifter project. You're probably mostly familiar with the STIX Shifter project, but if not, let me share my screen. Just let me know that you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can, Aviv.
Okay. So the STIX Shifter project is an open source library maintained by this technical committee for translating STIX patterns into different query languages so that one can query different security products which do not support STIX out of the box, and also translates the results back to STIX. And it has support for a lot of products as of today, tens of products. which you can see in the modules folder. And each of these requires some mapping definitions, which come in the form of JSON files. One file usually is called from STIX and translates a STIX pattern into the target query language. And the other is called the toSTIX, which will take the results of that query and translate it into STIX. And these can be quite large and complex. Let's have a look at the from STIX of what is this, carbon black, for example. So you can see that it's quite long. There is a lot of fields being mapped here. And the toSTIX is even bigger. And the toSTIX is even more complex because in the toSTIX, you sometimes have references to objects. So one property would reference another object. And it's enough that you make a typo here, so you would not get the right expected results. And it becomes quite hard to work with. So we thought it would be nice to create some user interface that would help people who wish to either create new STIX shifter modules or to edit existing ones with a friendlier way to work with. So this is the map my shifter Git repo. Currently, you can use this online. So you see there is a link here to the online version, also here in the demo. It's a static HTML app, so there is no backend. There is no your data is not going anywhere. It's running locally on your browser, so nothing, no privacy issues. And the way this works, we can either work on a from STIX or a to STIX mapping. Let's generate a from STIX mapping here. And you can see that I can choose which STIX version I want to work with. Currently supports 2.0 and 2.1. And I see the different STIX objects, which are taken from the official STIX ontology. And I can see the different fields that each of these has. And I can choose, okay, I want a directory path to be mapped to deer path, for example. And I want domain name value to be mapped to domain name or whatever. Anyway, you get the point. And all along, I have here coverage statistics, which is nice. You see how many of the official STIX fields you've covered with your mapping, and the minimum core of 12 which are required by STIX patterns if you've covered them all. And the nice thing is, right, you have this. If you're building your own STIX file just from in a text editor, you don't have these definitions, right? You have to get these names correctly, and you have to remember them or look for them. So here you just have them out of the box, which is very nice. So this is if I want to create from scratch, but I can also import an existing from STIX mapping. I'll take that carbon black mapping that we saw in a JSON file just before. So I can see that there are 15 STIX fields covered here, 7 out of 12 required. And I see all the mappings here. And I can also search, right? For example, let me search for a directory. So I can see that there is file parent directory reference, the directory path. So it's very convenient. by the way, you can also add custom fields. If you want any custom fields which are not in the official ontology, you can also add them here. And the second use case is the two STIX mappings. So here, again, I can create something from scratch. So for example, let's create a process object. And let's map this process object to a field which is in the original data called, let's say, proc. And I would like to map it to the process name field in STIX. So once again, this is nice. I can choose it from a list. I don't have to remember the STIX fields on my own, and there is no mistake of a typo. And let's also add a file object and map it. Let's say proc bin was the original field that we received, and we want to map it to file name. But we would also like, excuse me, actually it's not here. We would also like the process. Let's add another STIX field to process. And we'll say this is mapped to process binary ref, which will reference the file. So now this field is referencing this object. So again, very convenient. Instead of having to remember the names of the objects and write everything on your own, you have this nice visualizations to work with. And here as well, you can import an existing mapping. So let's take the carbon black 2 STIX. I can see the different objects which are defined here, and I can click on one of them and it will take me to that object, and I can see the different fields which are.
So here you have the complete ontology of the other side of the ETL.
Yeah, I have all the different.
So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you had like, if you had a definition for like ArcSight and Elasticsearch or something, don't you already have all the pieces here that you would need to also do a direct translation between those? I mean, what you've built here is like a really cool, it's like, I hate ETL, but it's like Swagger, like Swagger docs working with an API. This is kind of like Swagger, but for ETL. And while this is phenomenal for the coverage that you've got for the STIX observables ontology, sorry, that word doesn't come easily out of my mouth, but there, I said it. Like, it strikes me that this is also a general purpose tool for ETLing things. This is cool.
So you're saying if I had a STIX mapping between two different modules, I also have a mapping between these two different modules.
So you have here the ontology of carbon black, right? But you might also have some other ontologies, right? And if you can do field mapping, say this field in carbon black maps to this field in STIX, if you have the other ontologies, you could also just do direct field mapping using this tool. I'm saying it's more general purpose than our community, but it's awesome for our community. Thank you.
It might be. So anyone here is welcome to contribute to turn this into a general purpose ETL translation tool. So yeah, thanks. So that's the idea. Also here you have the coverage showing, so we can see the about half of this module is using official STIX objects, and a little bit less than a half is using custom fields. And eventually, after you've finished editing whatever you want to edit, you can export and save it back to a JSON file and use it in your module, wherever you like. So again, you be our guest to use this. As I said, the online thing is really easy to use. You don't need anything. It's hosted on GitHub IO, so it's running out of the GitHub being served statically, and we are planning also to, and currently it's not supported, but I hope we'll soon have it, that you could take this as a React component and include it in your own software. So maybe you want to build some website for editing, and you would just like to integrate this editor into your own website. And also integrating it into a client application, maybe an Electron application. And then people could install this locally on their own PC, and maybe even integrate it with their local STIX shifter repository, so you could work with that, with the actual files, without having to load and save them. So I think that's all, unless you have any questions.
You know, there's been all this work that that Rich Piazza has been leading up on the sort of more formalizing of STIX extensions and so forth. And with this representation that you have, that, like, let's say I'm vendor X, and I go and I'm like, okay, I have this coverage of the data model, the core data model, you know, for patterning level ABC, and like I have this percentage that's custom objects. It seems like you could car crash that a little bit and add a little button that would let you download like some kind of first draft of, this is my vendor X extension. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I suppose we could parse the JSON schema of an extension if you point us to the repository of that extension and
Oh, but I mean, like if I'm defining my own
populate the
ETL,
fields with it.
as I'm defining it, that you could just like let me say, okay, I've defined, what was it in that example, that it was like 57% custom fields
42%.
or 42%, whatever it was, that like you could just export that as like, okay, here's all your custom stuff that you just defined in a template format. Now go fill in the blanks. And that's something that you could use as a STIX to extension.
Oh, okay. You went, okay. I was thinking the other direction. I was thinking you could take an official extension definition and import it into
No, I'm
the
saying
fields.
this is a
You're
way
saying
of
the other way.
communicating the semantics of your custom fields after you've done that.
Wow, that's, yeah, I haven't thought about that. That's a cool
That's a
idea.
cool,
Yeah.
you could even have a button that's like, submit a pull request to the OASIS open repository.
Yeah. By the way, another thing we want to add here is the ability to actually execute the mappings. So if you want to test your mappings, you could run the STIX shifter and actually get data translated and see how it looks like.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Thank you, Aviv. I see Marlon, you've got your hand up.
So after Trey, all I can say is ditto, because that's exactly what I was gonna say. So just another one saying that'd be a really cool idea. Being able to generate the extensions and having, yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Great minds, Trey. Great minds.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Good guys got to stick together. Good folks got to stick together, and so do we.
All right. Well, Aviv, thank you very much. Does anyone have any other questions or comments for Aviv?
Aviv, when can you come back and give us a demo on the next version?
I'll be here next month as well, hopefully, but
All right.
I don't know if I will have a new version to show.
Well, when you have something to show, you let us know. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Yeah, so excellent. That was fantastic. And I really do appreciate that. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll just kind of come back and, and start bringing things to a close, open it up. If anyone's got questions or comments, definitely go and record your attendance if you haven't done so already. The link should be up earlier in the in the chat. So open it up to the floor if anyone's got anything. Our plan is to be able to go ahead and meet again next month. And I believe we have already got a couple different ideas for a community development corner lined up already. We're just trying to go ahead and put some final touches on things. If not, you're more than welcome to go ahead and join us again tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern to go ahead and see this live. Aviv, I know we won't have you there, unfortunately, because it's like ridiculously early in the morning for you. So I will make sure that the video gets posted and everyone has an opportunity to go ahead and see this.
Hey, everybody. You don't realize just how crazy, insane busy Rob is. And he's doing a phenomenal job, like getting these videos post-processed and uploaded super quick. So like 3 cheers for Rob, because he's not getting paid for that. That's just out of the goodness of his heart.
Value add is like what I like to call it.
So please, like if you have colleagues or folks who would benefit from seeing something, this is not limited to TC folks. Like I shared something with somebody and I said, hey, go look at this at minute, second mark, whatever. This is a way that we can disseminate knowledge outside of our community. And perhaps, I've been on all these calls and they're getting a whole lot more interesting now that we get more showing and a lot less telling. So share the videos around. If there's a cool community development corner, you can get, slide the slider in YouTube and you can get copy URL at timestamp and share that on your social medias. If there was something that you think is relevant to a broader audience, this is a way that we can have more outreach to the community and bring some folks inside and show them that we don't bite and it's not always boring.
Yeah, the videos right now are in a private status. So we post the links into the onto the listserv for everyone to go ahead and get. Over the course of the next month or so, we have a plan in the works to be able to go ahead and actually move these as part of the OASIS YouTube channel. So they will become public and get a little
Share
bit
them when they're public. Sorry.
Get a bit more visibility into organic search engines and the like. But in the meantime, they are available to you all via the direct links in the emails. So so that way we'll get it out to you quickly, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead and check me on chat. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close it up just a little bit early because I know that everyone needs that extra couple minutes before your next meeting, or in Aviv's case, maybe it's so you can go ahead and have a beverage or go to bed because I know it's getting late for you. So thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate all this. Love all of your participation, and we will see you all next month. Have a good day.
Take care, y'all. Bye.